Hi there. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Friday question and answer class, where you can ask about questions you have for American English pronunciation, improving your American accent, intonation, anything related to improving your personal and professional communication in American English. We meet each week, and your questions really help me make decisions for which videos to make next and which free lessons to include on my website, speechmodification.com. I really love hearing your feedback and suggestions because it helps me know how to best help you to improve. Each week, we also typically have a theme and talk about a particular pattern or sound. Some of the themes lately have been looking at words where the spelling doesn't really match the sounds. And also, you may have been coming to my daily broadcasts lately, which have been the theme of Word of the Day. And in those lessons and classes, we look at a word each day and break down how to pronounce it correctly, give you some steps for practicing, as well as some resources for the accent patterns you may have in those words. So please feel free to ask your particular words and questions today. And also, if you have a suggestion for the Word of the Day playlist, you can leave that in a comment on any of my videos or also on Facebook. These classes are live on YouTube, and I check in on the comments and answer those questions live. And then I do replay them later on Facebook and answer questions in the comments. So if you're watching on Facebook, next time come to the YouTube channel and you'll get to hear me pronounce your word and show you the resources live, as opposed to later on getting answers in the comments. So I wanted to just show you some of the requests I've had for Word of the Day and talk about a few patterns that I'm noticing in the things that you're requesting. And then we'll take your questions as we go. So a lot of the words tend to have the R sound in them, and American R can be pretty challenging. So I do have a full playlist helping you to learn the American R. Today's word of the day was the word regular and regularly. We've also had words like modern and quarter. A lot of words that are not only difficult because of the R, but because the R is together with other challenging sounds. And we do have many other requests coming up for the R sound. So we'll be looking at words like emergency and rude, service. Some of the requests have been for videos that I already have, in which case I'll usually try to direct you to where to find those. And I suggest using the search tools both on my website and on YouTube. And you can find materials that I already have created. I'm happy to give you information and show you how to find things as well. So I wanted to just take a quick look at the word rural, which I do have a video for this, but this is an example of an extremely difficult word to say. It's tough for me and for native speakers as well. And it's because we have a combination of R's and L's. So often when we're looking at pronunciation of a word, we try to break it down for focusing in on the difficult part and breaking it apart so you can really then put it back together correctly. So in the word rural, the UR has the sound. And the biggest challenge is that I have to go from an R back into the So many of you can do a tight back American R that sounds like and that's where you should start. Then add your initial R, and basically I'm kind of just I'm kind of just doing a little bit of a jaw and tongue movement and releasing and going back into the And then it also has a dark L, which basically sounds like a schwa sound with an L. So, oh. And some people are able to make that dark L without lifting their tongue to finish it. They can make it entirely with the back of the tongue, rural, oh. For me, if I don't lift and seal and finish the L by lifting the tip of my tongue, it sounds a little distorted, rural. So I often recommend trying to close off to that L. If you can make a dark L, like as in tall, call, without fully lifting the tongue to finish and still get that quality L sound, go for it. Okay, so rural. Again, I have to slow down to be able to say that. Fortunately, many people don't have to say this word regularly. And excuse me, you'll see that we focus a lot on frequently used words in English, because if I can say those words accurately and correctly, then I can build the phrases, the sentences, and say anything that I want to say. But of course, we all have these certain frustrating and challenging words. And so those will be a big part of the Word of the Day series. Thank you, Susan, for Susan is mentioning that we have reached 10,000 subscribers, which makes me really happy. Simply because I really like to have good content available for people for free so that you can learn and improve. So thank you for those of you who've subscribed. And if you haven't already subscribed, you might want to do it, because then you'll see when you go to YouTube, my content will be there with the other things you're interested in on your homepage. And you can also check out on my channel page, you'll be able to see upcoming live classes, and in the community page, you can look for quizzes and sneak previews and resources. So I pretty much post on there every day with some ideas and suggestions to get feedback from you and to keep improving and shaping the channel. Okay, awesome. So let's talk more. I'm going to just talk about a few more words. Please feel free to ask your questions as we go. I think I want to talk a little bit about some words where the spelling doesn't necessarily match the sounds. And so I'm just going to pick a couple of my favorites that oftentimes are of interest to people. So for example, the vowel I, as in the word bin, is written like this in the IPA. And for most people, the challenge is making a difference between the vowel E, like in bean, which is written this way, and the vowel I, like in bin. And one of the challenges here is that in American English, the word been, as in I've been busy, is pronounced the same as the word bin, B-I-N. And so it's not the same as B-E-E-N, B-E-A-N, I mean, bean. And so we have the lax bin in both of these and the tense bean in this one. Typically, E-E, for example, in green, E-E and E-A typically have this tense E vowel. Here's an exception where we have the I vowel. I see that Sid Hunt would like to know how to pronounce plural. That's great. It's really very similar to rural. So plural is slightly easier because I still have my sound, but I don't have to do that first initial R. And so I would, again, build it from the It has first syllable stress, and second syllable is shorter and unstressed. So I would try and then lur. And you might find that to be a tough combination. You have to lift the tongue in the front for the L and then pull it back and tighten it for the So lur, and then plur, and finally plural, ol. So I need my dark L added on after, plural. Then try using it in a phrase. To make something plural, we typically add an S or Z sound in American English. Great. We have a question about the difference between flower and flower. Here's another example like bin and bin, where actually in American English, flower and flower have the same pronunciation. So we have the fl, we have the vowel diphthong ow. I didn't write my O very clearly. We think of this O, ow, when we think of this diphthong ow. I call it the brown cow vowel because we do often spell it with OW. And this one is an exception. OU is often pronounced another way in English, so you may think that they need to be different, but they both have the ow diphthong and then an flower. And they also both have first syllable stress with an unstressed second syllable. This one kind of also looks like it should just be one syllable. And if you think about, I actually just think about this spelling, flower, and use it for both words. So I need some flour for my recipe. That's a word that many people have asked me about. and have had the experience of going and asking in the store for where the flower is and having a hard time being understood. So thank you for asking that question. I think that will help other people as well. The Sunny wants to know, is pour also pronounced the same way? So power is like flower, and pour is just has the vowel or, the diphthong or. So this is the same as pour and tor. Now there are, the British will say more of a pour with an oo and an pour. And I do hear some Americans use that pour with more of a tense oo vowel. I personally say it the same as this one, pour, with just the or vowel. That rhymes with floor and door. There are, of course, some regional varieties, and both I think are acceptable. So thank you. That's a good question. Siddhant wants to know, is there a slight hint of a oo vowel at the end of the ow vowel? Like in, what was your word before, Siddhant? Flower. Yeah. Flow, ow. When I do ow, this diphthong, in the dictionary, it shows it as an ah and an When I do ow, I think that there is a bit of an oo tendency there because I'm moving into that W shape, and W is really ooh, not oh, ooh. So to make my lips tense enough and the sound of the W, the ooh, you're going to definitely hear that coming from the ow into the W, ow. If I'm saying, and so I often think of this as being more of an ah and an oo than an ah and an It's really just about moving from a more tense to a somewhat more lax vowel. And then if I'm going into a W sound, I will have that oo tendency. Yes, you're correct. Question for syrup and almond. I'm guessing I know how you like your lattes, possibly. So syrup is another one that doesn't really look like how it's spelled. So we actually have the vowel in that as well. I'm going to write it this way because we say this word sir the same. So the vowel is and then we have first syllable stress, syrup, up. And then the up part is kind of like the word up. We might also say it more like ip, syrup, syrup, syrup. It's hard to tell because it's unstressed whether it's a schwa or an I. I'm guessing if I looked in the dictionary, it might be the syrup, rather than an but that doesn't matter nearly as much as being long on the first syllable and short on the second. Almond. This is a question of whether or not you need to put the L sound in. Almond. This is, I would say, one where I don't necessarily finish my dark L with the lifted tongue. I might say it kind of more like almond. I think I've looked this one up in the dictionary and it doesn't show an L sound. Almond. So that's got a schwa. First syllable stress, and then schwa, almond. I think of the L as being somewhat there because it really shapes how I do that ah vowel. If I just do almond, you can hear how that doesn't sound quite right. Almond, it affects this vowel. So I'm going to put that L in there even though I'm not really clearly doing almond. So whatever's easiest for you to get that almond, that dark back ah vowel. You may or may not think of it as having a hint of dark L in it. That's not the greatest definitive description, so I apologize. Let's look that one up in the dictionary because I don't claim to be the only authority. I can talk specifically about how I know I pronounce it, but I always am researching and looking up your words because I want to give you an accurate range of what's acceptable for American English. The dictionary I like is the Oxford Learner's Dictionary because it'll show me both American English and British English. And so when we look up almond, it's going to show us both. Yeah. And so what it's showing is it's not showing any L sound. It's showing the ah vowel with length. Those two little dots mean length. So they're saying it's almond, almond, which I don't think is what I do. I think I do more of an almond. And that's just a matter of the ah and ah vowels have merged in some places in the US. Let's listen to how they say it because that might be more informative for us. If they would play, it would be informative for us. How about British?
Almond.
Okay, so maybe I say it more like the British. Almond.
Almond.
Yeah, he is really saying almond, almond. That's not the way I say it. I'm from the Midwest. I live on the West Coast now. There are places where the ah and ah aren't different from one another. So I think you can probably use either one and it would be an acceptable pronunciation. If you want to sound just like me, you're going to go for kind of that dark almond with the hint of an L. Okay, so that was a lot of detail. I hope that was helpful for you, and you can find something among those different options that works well for you for your pronunciation. Oftentimes, I would say you want to get something that is well understood, and it may or may not be exactly what you're hearing Americans around you do, but if it's not causing people to ask you to repeat, then you're doing great, and you can kind of work on how it works best for your particular mouth and pronunciation and other patterns. Okay, great. A few more questions. We have question for the word literally, and this is definitely one we've talked about in class before, and I do have a video for literally, and I'm going to just run you through it quickly, and then I'll show you where to find some information about literally. So it has vowel I that we're talking about. It has first syllable stress, literally. The last three syllables are short. Something to note is that we say it more like a D. It's called a flap T, and it's a light touching up D, literally. And then we have a tight we have a dark L, oh. Actually, we have an a schwa, and a light L because li it functions at the start of a syllable. So literally. And for this one, I recommend starting with the unstressed. So starting with and go slowly. Li. And then see if you can speed that up. Early. And then add in your stress syllable, literally. Good. Yeah. So you can check out speechmodification.com. If you go to the free practice materials and you have a word that's challenging for you, so here on speechmodification.com, you can use the search tools here on the free practice, online practice free trial, and I can type in my word or my accent pattern that I'm looking for. So if I type in literally, it's going to list all of the related lessons. So there's a lesson about adverbs like literally, and then just a video and lesson for literally. And you can see that's one of my YouTube videos. You can find it on the channel page as well. And it breaks it down and helps you kind of work through those steps that we did together. Thank you. That's a good word that a lot of people struggle with. And it's not an easy word. So break it down, take it slow, and you'll be able to eventually speed back up and use it correctly and accurately. Great. Okay. Susan would like to know how to pronounce the word garden. Garden. Definitely a gardening time of year, isn't it? Our garden is very beautiful this time of year, very green. Garden. So first syllable stress. And this is an AR that actually sounds like AR, same as the word R. It's just basically an ah moving into an So try R, gar, and then garden. Americans often kind of leave out the vowel here entirely. We might use a little bit of a syllabic N, garden. I go right from the D into the N sound, garden. If I do have a vowel there, it's just a short little I or a short little garden, garden. I would recommend trying to go right from the D to the N, and then you're going to end up with a tiny reduced vowel, and you'll sound like an American when you're saying garden. And if you're trying to do gardening, gardening, we, again, kind of go right from the D to the N, gardening. I can do a little tiny I or gardening or gardening. The gardening, we almost reduce it down to just 2 syllables. In many cases, Americans will try to shorten and reduce. Not try to, it's just part of what happens in fluent speech, that the stressed syllables and stressed words gets more stretched out, and the unstressed syllables and words get significantly reduced. Great. Okay. Natalia would like to know about the word bathed and how to spell it in IPA symbols. So Natalia, we have the B, we have an American A, which is a diphthong 2 vowels, A. We have the voiced TH, V, bathed, bathed. And then we go right from the voiced TH into the D. So that's what's challenging in this word. It looks like it should be more like bathed, and instead it's bathed. We don't have that many voiced THs at the ends, maybe also breathed, and mouthed, teethed. So that's definitely a challenging combination to go from that voiced TH into the D, bathed. It's hard for me to say as well. I hope that helped you. We have another question. Sitant says, in words like account, I tend to pronounce it with an ow, with a bit of an oo, account. I would say account or count. Try to think about it as having this cow in it. Cow, count. And so again, if you're hearing kind of an oo, it's because it does have that ow, that W sound, account. Just, I wouldn't highlight the oo too much. If it's going account with too much oo, it's going to sound a little bit strange. So in these contexts, even though it's a double diphthong vowel and it's a little bit longer, we don't want it to be so long that there's extra sounds in there that confuse the listener. Okay. Yes, she was in response to the almond syrup. She was saying that I do pronounce certain words with a hint of an L, like calm. Yes, so the L is typically silent, but what it does is it affects how we pronounce the vowel. And that's probably due to my regional accents and how I speak. I definitely don't say calm. It's much more calm. Good point. Okay. Susan says, the Oxford Dictionary represents the word table without the schwa. Is it possible to pronounce this word with schwa in the middle of the B and L? So she's asking about table, if we have to go right from the B to the syllabic L, or if we can do it with a little schwa. Table, table. I definitely think you can do a little schwa there. You don't want it to have it very long. Table, bull. They're just representing the fact that the L is a syllabic L, which means that there's technically no vowel sound there. It's not like, the difference would be if I said table with a really long bull, table, it's going to sound strange. If that's very short and reduced, table, bull, that's just another way to represent what's happening there, which is when I move from B to O, there's definitely a bit of vocalic schwa in there, bull, because my tongue is moving back into the L position and my voice is still on. And so that transition sound, the schwa, the sound, it's in many longer words in the middle of syllables and in syllabic N's and L's, because it's the sound that comes out when my tongue is transitioning from position to position. So it's the most prevalent sound in American English, and it's definitely a good one to be able to master. So yes, you can put a little schwa in there, just don't linger on it too long. And if that helps you get that syllabic L, then that's probably what's making that accurate dark L for you at the end. All right, we have another question. what vowel do I use in the second syllable of pajamas in your accent? I say pajamas. Pajamas is probably more East Coast. I think that's kind of similar to Midwest and West Coast. We say aunt, the same as aunt with vowel a. And I have friends on the East Coast, they'll say aunt. So these would not be the same, and they would use the ah. So my aunt wears pajamas in New Jersey, but my aunt wears pajamas here in Seattle. I think that's a probably overgeneralization, and there's variety across different places in the US. But in my personal experience, I know that the East Coast leans towards aunt and pajama, and we lean towards aunt and pajama here and also in the Midwest. Great questions. Thank you. Okay, so we have just a couple more minutes. Please feel free to ask any additional questions you have, and I'll point out a couple more words with sounds and spelling. And next week, maybe we'll talk about a topic as well. Hi, nice to see you, Bernice. I wanted to look again at my list from the requests for word of the day, and these will still come up in word of the day, but I think that they give me the sense of what's giving people some trouble and what they'd like to see and hear. So I've had a number of people ask me about the word opportunity. Again, I do already have a video for opportunity, but let's talk about it because I think that it's probably worthy of time and attention because it's something that a lot of people are asking about. And it does have some issues that are going to be challenging for many people. For example, the first one right off the bat is that the letter O doesn't say the O sound in this word. It's an ah. And also, in a longer word like this, mastering the syllables and all of the sounds can be challenging. So we have how many syllables? Opportunity, 5-syllable word with third syllable stress. So we have the clear oo vowel on tune. So we have the O, first O is ah, and then the P is typically not too hard for people. And then here's another example where OR actually sounds like an ER. And so that's true also for words like word and work. And I usually just recommend trying to think about those as being the same as were or were plus a K, so that you can get in your mind that even though you see the letter O, you don't have to do anything different. You still just want your sound. So opper, opportu. And I'm going to write that this way for the oo vowel. And then we have an itty, and this is also challenging. Like in the words city, pretty, quality. Quality was our first word of the day challenge. And it's challenging because I have the lax I, and then I have to end on the tense E, even though it's an unstressed syllable. I also have the flap T, which sounds like a D. So I have some extra exercises for words like city, quality, opportunity. You can practice that ending. And again, I would maybe in this word build it from the end. I would try just D, itty, tunity, opportunity. You can also identify what's difficult for you in this word. Is it the OR? Is it the first sound? Is it the combination of all of it? Break it down, try the part slowly, and then speed it back up to get it more fluent and more natural sounding. Okay, so there's a chance for those of you who are waiting for me to talk about opportunity. You can also check out my video on opportunity on the channel page or in the free lessons on speechmodification.com. Okay, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So we have a question for the word real. And real is another one that's difficult because of the R and L combination. I like to think about it as being and so it may be that the dark L is challenging for you, and we talked about that earlier in class today. You want to keep the back of your tongue down while the front of your tongue lifts to finish the L. It's like it has a schwa sound, so thinking of ul, and then maybe eel, eel. So if you can say this word eel, you can get it, and then add in real, real. Some people also find it helpful to think about how when I'm moving from the E to the before the L, that I have a little bit of a y sound, real, real. So if I go really slowly, I can hear how when I link from one vowel to the next, there's a y in the middle, real. So that can be helpful as well. And then I'll also just mention that even though really looks like the same word as real, how we often say that, how I really say that is more with a vowel like really. It's simply because it's easier than doing really, and it's okay to say really. People will say that, but you might find it easier and you might sound more American if you use this pronunciation, which is actually the sound, really. I have a video about really in which I talk about real and really that you can check out for more details if that's helpful for you. Okay, last question for today. Two more, okay, because I see another question coming in. Susan wants to know about metal versus metal. Yes, basically the same pronunciation. Both of them are kind of a flat. The only maybe subtle difference is that I might hold the vowel slightly longer before the D in metal. So I would say it like this. My metal is metal. So this one, you can hear the stress syllable is slightly shorter than this one. But without context, you may not be able to tell the difference between those two. They basically have the same sounds. Great. Okay. Alexander wants to know about a vocabulary question, which is range hood versus fan hood. The range hood, I haven't actually really heard that term, fan hood. I've heard vent hood and range hood being the same. Fan is often in the range hood or the vent hood. So I'm guessing possibly fan hood means the same, but I haven't heard that particular term used. You might just say the fan, the stove fan. But fan hood would make sense because it's the hood in which the fan is sitting. So probably synonymous. Great. You're welcome. So Diamond Fighter wants to know the THS. He's asking if I have time. Yes, I'm happy to do it. Months, how to pronounce the THS. So it's a voiceless TH and an S. Unlike bathed or bathes, that's the voiced TH. And then that would make it a Z. But in months, it's so I just do the TH and then I pull back in for the S. Months, months. Yeah, that's a tricky one too. I actually have a video about pronouncing words with THS. I was just noticing that today. I was showing it to someone to answer their question. So you can check that out to help you with other words like months. Okay, Natalia wants to know other words with similar ending to bathed. So we're talking about the THED, the D ending in bathed. Other words, mouthed, like the dog mouthed the toys. That's hard for me to say. Teethed. The baby teethed at 3 months. Mouth, teeth. I'm trying to think of what we need is other words that end with a voiced th. Seethed. Many of these words are not particularly common. If you look at my voiced th videos on my th playlist, you'll see some other examples. And I think I'm mostly talking about the ths sound like bathes and mouths, but that's also true. The same words that do thz for the present third person present progressive form will also present tense form will also do that for this for thed. It's fortunate that it's not very common because it's quite challenging to pronounce, and that's partly probably why it didn't happen. It maybe was present on more words and then it faded out because it was challenging to pronounce. So Sunny had a bunch of suggestions for us. Thank you. He's saying big mouthed, bad mouthed. Yeah, that's when we use bad mouthed. She bad mouthed him. Mouthed is quite challenging. Bequeathed. Bequeathed is actually a voiceless th and t sound. Unsheathed, unsmoothed, resmoothed. Yeah, smoothed. So smooth, breathe, teeth, mouth, anything with a voice th is going to add that d sound directly on to make it past tense. All right, thanks everybody. The last couple of questions, I'm going to catch you guys next time because we're going past our 30-minute time. But we will be back again next Friday with the same class, and I'll send you a quick note in the comments after class to give you some resources to answer your questions. Please feel free, if you're not watching this live, to ask questions on the replay in the comments, and I always go back and check those and send you some links to the website or to videos that will help you with your questions. And we'll be back again next week at the same time, 12 o'clock Seattle time, 3 o'clock East Coast time. Wonderful to see everyone here today, and thank you for the great questions. Gave me a lot of good things to think about for upcoming Word of the Day classes and videos to make for you. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.